everyone. Thank you all for attending today's press conference. We've got Giants President of Baseball Operations, Farhan Zaidi, and Giants Manager, Gabe Kapler available. Just a reminder, if you have a question, please raise your hand, and Megan and Erwin will get you a mic. So with that, we'll open up the questions. Susan.
Hi, with the benefit of a couple of days, I was hoping, first of all, each of you could kind of, give us a look at your opinion of the series and how things went, and with a little bit of time.
I need a little more time.
So, Susan, you're asking about our series. I've been thinking a lot about the last game, and I guess the thing that stands out to me is I felt like the game went really well for us in a lot of different ways. I thought Logan pitched a great game. Obviously, I thought we were able to kind of mix and match our way through that game and give people good chances to have success. And then I felt like we got to the end of the game and had a good chance to win the game. And I think those are the things that you look for. And obviously you want to score a bunch of runs early in a game and have it be lopsided in your favor. But I also think when you look back, you're like, hey, how did we do in that game? And I actually thought we played a good defensive game and a quality game from just about every angle, which made it kind of tough to lose. And obviously over the last couple of days have had a chance to reflect on that. And at the end of the day, I think we were able to think about the great things that happened during the season and appreciate those and appreciate the way we approached and ultimately played Game 5. And I feel okay about it at this point. Obviously, it's been a little difficult to watch baseball the last couple of days. I watched my first couple of innings of any baseball last night, and now I'm back to enjoying the game again and looking forward to next year.
Yeah, the day of Game 5, I remember thinking and even having some conversations with people about how it's been a long year for us, been a long couple of years for everybody, and you just feel like it's going to come down to this one game, maybe one inning, one at bat, one pitch, and it really did. I mean, that's sort of the beauty and the cruelty of baseball, kind of all rolled into one. Is it's a long season, and it just comes down to little pieces of execution and maybe little pieces of good fortune. And I would echo what Gabe said, that we played well enough to win that game. The Dodgers certainly played well enough to win that game. They did just a little bit more than us, and they were very deserving winners. I had my wife and son at the game, and my son predictably fell asleep at some point, and brought him home, and he fell asleep in his orange Giants jersey, and we wound up kind of crawling into bed with him, and woke up the next morning, and he was still in his Giants jersey with a big smile on his face. And it's just you have those moments, and you're like, life goes on. We had a great year, and we have a lot to be proud of. So I don't think we look back with any regret or bitterness at what was a great series. I mean, I will say, I figured we'd be asked how closely we're watching this NLCS, and it feels a little bit like, I imagine what an actor feels like if they get beat out for a part and then they go to the movies and watch someone else on the screen. That's kind of what it feels like for us. I mean, you're watching that game and you sort of feel like that should be us, and it feels a little bit like so close yet so far. I mean, you're like, we could be playing in that game, but I'm, at home watching this game in my sweats, like going back and forth between the game, and I'm watching Squid Game right now, which probably says a little bit about my mental state. And so there's a little bit of a surrealness kind of watching that, feeling like you could have been there, but we're not, and the Dodgers deserve to win. So I think that helps us kind of move past it a little bit, knowing we lost to a very deserving team that just did a little bit more than we did.
Keeping on that same subject for both of you, are you surprised at what has happened to the Dodgers in these first two games? There's some talk about them being fatigued, and given the race between you two teams and just how much it took out, do you think that your team might have been, if you had advanced, might be feeling the effects of that year-long battle, season-long battle with them?
I mean, I think potentially. I mean, we obviously used Gosman in that last game. We had Alex Wood up, and I think that was a reflection of how important it was to both teams. It was survive and advance, and don't think too far ahead because it's going to be a battle, and it really was. So, I give a lot of credit to the Braves. Just kind of watching them, they've had good at bats, and you don't want to discredit them by saying they're facing a gas team, but you see Scherzer's comments, and they put a little more skin in that last game, and I don't think they regret it at all because they're still playing and we're on our couches. So, but I think the way that series went, we wouldn't have been in our freshest state certainly going into the NLCS.
Yeah, I was just going to say, kind of planning for Game 5, there's kind of a lot of discussion about if you're up by several runs, would you do anything differently so you could be thinking about Game 1 of the NLCS? I personally didn't have much appetite for doing anything but kind of getting out of Game 5 and into the NLCS. So I totally understand why the Dodgers played it the way they did. I agree with Farhan that we were going to play it similarly with all of the weapons that we had available, and it's all really understandable to me. And watching from afar, and it doesn't surprise that maybe some guys are tired, maybe they're not. I mean, it's obviously you don't know until you peel back the curtain, until you're actually having the conversations inside the clubhouse. It's kind of tough to speculate on how people might be feeling, but I imagine we would be feeling some fatigue. Sure.
A lot of things you guys have to do now looking forward. One thing I wanted to ask about was the catching position, how you feel about it, knowing that Joey Bard has gotten the reps he probably should have gotten at AAA now, and you have Buster coming off a very resurgent season with an option and a decision for both of you to make. How do you assess your strategy at that position overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a lot better position than we were in 2 years ago when Buster opted out, and obviously for really good and understandable reasons, but we didn't have Joey in a state where he was maybe as big league ready as he is now. So I think we're in a much better position with Joey. Obviously, Kurt's done a great job for us, and the job that Cap and his staff did with Buster managing his workload. I know he's spoken about that, and he's in our estimation, the best catcher in baseball this year. So, feel really good about the state of that position at this point.
You guys talked a lot this season about the team chemistry and the selflessness with a lot of potential holes to fill with so many free agents. How do you now address that going forward when it comes to your own free agents and also looking at other free agents with an eye toward maintaining that kind of good chemistry and selflessness?
Yeah, I think beyond the kind of motivation to keep a team together that performed as well as our team did, it adds an extra layer of motivation because these guys all get along so well and bring out the best of each other and really have this whole greater than the sum of the parts dynamic. So, I know there's probably questions out there about each of our free agents and what our motivation is. I mean, we're going to have conversations with all of these guys for that reason, and it's just really too early. I mean, they haven't even filed for free agency yet. But that's a big factor for us, and you just don't know what directions the offseason may go in, what interest players may have from other teams, what sort of geographic preferences they may have to maybe play closer to home. And we'll have to navigate through all that, but I think that kind of adds an additional layer of wanting to keep as much of this group together as we can.
And also with the chemistry that you guys have established, and I think everyone is sort of aware of, certainly among probably the groups of major league players and agents and things like that, is that something that can help you attract maybe free agents? First of all, the success of the season, but also kind of knowing some of the tweaks you've made with free agent pitchers, and then this kind of great, no jerks allowed kind of thing that you guys had going.
and I know Scott would say the same thing. In our conversations with agents, have just gotten a lot of positive feedback on players they have on this team, about the job that Gabe has done, about how he communicates with players, about how much they value our coaching staff. So I think that's definitely a recruiting advantage we have. I think word's gotten out in a very positive way.
Alex?
Yeah, you've kind of had to deal with this a lot in your time here, but you have a rotation to rebuild. It's a little bit different now with Logan so entrenched, but how do you view just maybe the off-season work you have to do there to rebuild the rotation?
Yeah, I mean, sort of getting back to the earlier question, we have a number of free agents in the rotation, and we have interest in retaining all of those guys. But, this is probably the segment of the free agent market that's hardest to predict or pin down, because it's a need that every team has, and it's a need that every team tries to address pretty aggressively. So there's a lot of competition, and but again, I imagine that whether it's in conversations with our own guys, with some other sort of starting pitcher free agents who may be out there, and then evaluating our own system, evaluating players who may be out there who are kind of spent this past season in the upper levels with other teams, and guys that we view as potential trade candidates. I mean, we're going to kind of pursue all those avenues. But obviously, I mean, if it's probably obvious looking at where our roster is going to be on paper, but that's going to be the number one priority for us.
Marco?
Question for each of you guys. Marco Ikolovich, Bay Area Sports Rep here. Obviously, you have a lot of free agents. You guys have to worry about your own. But in case they happen to go somewhere else, Farhan, how active would you be during the trade market during this offseason? And would starting pitching be a priority if you decide to go the trade route? And Gabe, for you, what would you like to see him add to your ball club for next season?
Well, why don't you go first so I can adjust my answer?
I don't think that makes any sense. You go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd be open to that. As a very generic and non-committal answer, but I think we'll be sort of active in both markets and free agency and looking at trades as well. Obviously, you've got to give something to get something, and it's really hard to trade for starting pitching just because of the demand. But I imagine we'll look at both. Yeah.
Right. For us in the clubhouse, I think we've seen over the last couple of years that we've gotten some really high quality, talented pitchers to work with, and we trust that that's going to happen again.
Danny?
With the coaching staff, do you expect a high retention rate for coaches on your staff, and have any coaches been given permission to interview with other teams yet?
So obviously we have the hole at third base with Woe retiring. So that's a position that we'll talk about filling from our current coaching staff. So we may be moving some pieces around there. We'll definitely have some conversations with some people outside the organization as well. Work a really good process on that front. With respect to permission requests, teams are always going to call and ask about really high quality coaches. It's kind of been that way as long as I've been around the game, and we would expect that would happen with us as well.
John?
Hey, Farhan, do you expect or do you plan to or will you exercise Buster Posey's option within 5 days after the final World Series game?
Yeah, I mean, I just mentioned that I thought he was the best catcher in baseball this year, so that may be the answer that you're looking for. But obviously, want to have conversations with Buster and continue to have internal conversations about that. But having him on this team next year is a high priority.
Terry?
Kind of following up on that, what kind of dialogue have you had with Brandon Belt? He's expressed interest in coming back, and you guys could obviously always go with a qualifying offer. What does that situation look like right now?
Yeah, I mean, he you could talk about his value both in how he played down the stretch and how much we missed him once he went down. So it's really, really important part of this team. The qualifying offer decision we'll have to think more about, and I'm sure we'll have some conversations with his representation as we did during the year. But he's happy here. I think he feels really appreciated, and we appreciate him. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball over the last couple of years, and so yeah, I mean he's a big part of this team, and we'll certainly hope that those are productive dialogues.
Susan?
In terms of payroll, do you have any idea, or how much will CBA, all of that, do you kind of have any sort of feelings about the labor issues involved and where things might go with payroll?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know this has been a great year of baseball, and I think there's a lot of interest in maintaining the positive momentum the sport has. So I think everybody's really hopeful that things get worked out. As far as payroll goes, we've spoken about this before. We have a very sort of supportive board and ownership group. See Larry in the back there, and they've given us everything we've asked for in terms of payroll, in terms of expanding the staff, in terms of doubling the size of a coaching staff, and so I know we'll continue to have their support on that, and again, it's just going to boil down for us to making the right baseball decisions. So no specific target, but like we've talked about, we're going to have some spots on the roster to fill, and that's going to require some active work on our part, and their involvement and their support.
Kris?
This is for both of you. With regards to Kris Bryant, obviously when he came here, he seemed very excited and looked like he fit right in from a chemistry standpoint, and then obviously on the field position versatility. So your thoughts on Bryant as far as his priority, and then Gabe was just how you like where he fits in your lineup all the way around.
Can you go first this time?
Sure. So obviously Kris had a great series for us, and then we saw how helpful it was to have his positional versatility, and I think we've talked a lot about this conversation, but still appropriate to go back to it. When we first acquired Kris, had the opportunity to talk to him on the phone. He was adamant about being a team first guy, and that he was willing to move around, play anywhere, hit anywhere in the lineup, and then he did all of those things. So I really appreciated that he was kind of true to his word on that front, kind of superstar talent, coming in and doing everything he possibly could to fit in with a team. His talent with a new team, and his talent was evident at every turn. His pregame work was awesome, and fast base runner, big power to all fields. Preparation was excellent. So I have really good feelings about what Kris brought for us.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his stretch with us, I know there was a lot of talk on how he got off to a good start, hit a homer his first game, and then his numbers weren't quite at the same level in September. But that's just the reality of a really small sample. When you get traded at the deadline, you've got 2 months with a team, 50, 60 games. Every player is going to have hot and cold spells. It's just the reality of the sport. And, I think for someone like him, it gets under a greater microscope. But to Cap's point, I mean, to his credit, he was the same guy all along, continued to move around the field, and it was really, I thought, an impact player for us in the DS, and that's what we got him for. And for us, the move at the deadline was really about pushing chips in with this team, which we thought was a really special team, and had a chance to do some special things, and did. But we recognize that he's superstar talent, and it's going to be a really competitive market for his services, and I'm sure we'll have conversations there, but he's going to have a long line of suitors, so we'll just have to see how that develops.
Maria?
Hey, Farhan, you don't have as many holes on the position player side as you do on the pitching staff, but are there any areas where you might look to upgrade or shore up this offseason?
Yeah, you're right. I think if you just look at the players that we sort of have under contract, you could probably put together a full group of 12 or 13 position players that you feel good about. But I don't think that's going to preclude us from, whether it's some of our own players who are going to be free agents and other guys in this free agent class that, may bring some different dimensions to our team. I think we'll be very open-minded about that. But it's definitely not at the same level of priority as the starting pitching because, we have kind of more obvious spots to fill on that side.
Okay, we'll take a couple more. Alex?
Yeah, you guys have really valued kind of flexibility with your roster, especially on the position player side, and then the outfield. You have some guys who are now into the arbitration years who can't be optioned. How do you evaluate that group, and especially what they did in the postseason?
Yeah, you're right. We have a group that has been productive, guys that have played every day for stretches, that have kind of played part-time for stretches, and, one of the things that we really value about our own players, I don't know if you're asking about kind of comparing them to, guys that might be free agents or other guys who are out on the market, but, we know that they are bought into our system, that they've succeeded in our system, and, whether you're kind of platooning in and out of the lineup, coming into pinch hit, I mean, we ask a lot of these guys, and they've really come through, and to Cal's point, have fostered a really unselfish culture that we value a lot. It's really part of our organizational identity at this point. So, the one thing we talked about this some, but we don't kind of go into the offseason and say, oh, these are the 13 position players that are going to be on our opening day roster, and so we don't have room to add somebody, and that's it. I mean, just so many things can happen in spring training, leading up to opening day, during the season. So I don't think we're going to be that laser focused on these are the 13 guys we're going to break camp with, and so that creates an opportunity to be a little bit more open-minded and not feel like, well, we have a full group of position players, so let's not even worry about it.
John?
Hey, Gabe, the payroll for next year. This year, you rank about 10th in baseball. Dodgers right there at the top. And, it's almost $100 million apart. And this obviously is a major market. Now, do you plan on, it wasn't that long ago the Giants were top 3, top 5 in payroll. And the team has fallen. But do you anticipate challenging the Dodgers by an extreme payroll increase at all in the next year or two?
Well, they don't award the trophy based on challenging the Dodgers on the payroll table, do they? I mean, that doesn't matter to us at all. I mean, on the baseball side, it doesn't matter at all. Like I said, we've had really strong ownership support, and we don't pull up that chart and be like, we're going to catch the Dodgers in this if it's the last thing we do. We're trying to build the best team we can. And, there are times when, spending is a really good way to do that. And there are times when, going out and, acquiring, guys that are blocked in AAA with other teams that, maybe don't, carry the same payroll number but can be just as impactful. Is the right way to do it. So I don't think we view it as sort of that linear of an exercise. I understand and appreciate the question. I don't mean to be snarky about it, but I don't think we view it as the primary dimension on which we're competing. So it's just not going to be a focus of ours.
Have you guys had any players who needed scans or anything like that since the end of the season, or will they, or anybody that potentially is scheduled for other things that we don't know about from an injury standpoint?
We talked about that earlier. We'll put out a medical update in the next couple hours, just that can speak more completely and accurately than we would if we talk about that. But we understand that's so. We'll put out an update on where our guys are. No.
Okay, last one, Kris.
This is for both of you. What are you going to miss most about the the season, Gabe? I saw your Instagram story. You posted that picture with your coaches, 643 feeling. I thought that was really cool.
Yep.
And your plans for the offseason, or maybe a highlight of the offseason before Scottsdale?
So no, I think that's perfect. there is a feeling that happens prior to the game that's just unmatched. You can't manufacture it. There's an adrenaline rush that comes being a player, being in uniform, being in the dugout, having all the fans in the stands, and the unknown of that game. It's incredible. It's a feeling that I think drives us to do what we do. So I'll definitely miss that. With respect to off-season plans, probably go to Arizona a little bit and see some players there. Going to see my sons. So my older son is in Vancouver, and I'm going to get up there and spend some time with him. My younger son's in Los Angeles. I'll see him there. And then I'm just going to try to enjoy San Francisco. And one of the cool things about the current environment is we can do everything that we need to do from anywhere. And so I'll probably enjoy the freedom of that. And I guess that's my take.
Yeah, I mean, glad Gabe bought me some time to think about my answer. That's why I always try to get him to go first. I just there was such a feeling of rebirth this season, just in terms of the city, in terms of the organization, in terms of sort of having fans back. And that was just a really cool feeling. And I think we, I speak for myself. I don't think I've ever appreciated being able to come to the ballpark and watch a game and see fans in the stands, see fans get excited like we did this year. And I hope that carries over this year, but I think next year. But I think that is something that was pretty special about this season around baseball, and particularly for this team, with the way this city kind of opened back up and people came back to the ballpark, and hats off to our ballpark operations staff. I thought they did an incredible job keeping our environment safe, but it was also kind of special to see that. And for me, going back to 2018 when my last game as a Dodger, last regular season game as a Dodger, seeing Pence's sort of retirement speech and how excited the fans were to see kind of that energy come back into the ballpark this year. And not that we didn't have moments over the last few years with Boccia's retirement and some of the other special moments we've had, but the last month of the season in the playoffs was really, really special. And so it's just sad that it came to an end, but I think we do have a lot of great memories. Off-season plans, going to finish Squid Game. Episode 7, the VIPs just showed up. It's a little weird. But
how's it compared to Rectify?
It's completely. Do you know what this? You got to check out the show.
I saw it. So I don't know how much similarity there is between Parasite and the movie Parasite and Squid Game, but I hear like Parasite was one of the coolest movies I've ever seen. So
yeah, I mean,
if there's any similarities there,
you got to just check it out. I don't even know how to start talking about it for those who.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, but we're already starting to think about next year. I mean, you want to feel like when you start that prep, it's not just being in denial about what just happened. Like, I want to think about next year because I don't want to think about what just happened. But we've had, some time now, and I think there's genuine excitement about continuing to build what we have. So those conversations are going to start. The GM meetings are right around the corner, and then we'll go from there. But, this job in this industry is kind of a year-round enterprise now, as you guys all know, covering it. So there's not a lot of time off, but it is nice to get a little bit of a breather.